Alright, so I wanted to do a little bit of video to show people, uh, anyone really, but some details on Rimworld of some strategies and some things that I incorporate. Um, so one thing that I want to focus in on is food storage. Normally what I do is I usually have at least 3 different coolers connected to an area that I want to keep cool or frozen. So here, as you'll see, there's one cooler, 2, 3, and the reason why I have 3 is just in case one fails, I don't have my food going bad trying to repair it. Uh, I can make sure everything here stays frozen that I want to keep frozen. That is, and uh, basically I just make sure they're protected there. Um, 2 is good, especially if one goes down. I normally like 3, just another step of redundancy to make sure your food storage is critical, so you don't want that to go bad. This freezer isn't that large, but that's one thing I wanted to cover. Another thing that also helps is I like having it directly connected only to the kitchen. That way it eliminates people like having to like walk through it unnecessarily, which can keep the area dirty. We want the freezer to stay clean, and the only person that really should be accessing it is your chef. I think this is I haven't played this in a while, but I think this is my chef here. Um, so your chef will quickly go in, grab the ingredients, go right to where the stove is, and get to work. And then they can go right back in to put the frozen meal in there. So only person going in there is a chef. Now, if other people want to get their own meals to prevent them from going in, I usually have like an area just outside, like right here, where I can store trays, trays of like completed meals, and they can just run and grab it. So it's usually only like between 10 and 20. I mean, it depends on how many people you get, and you don't want meals going to waste, of course, but usually keep a shelf full of trays of food, at least 2 different types of trays of food, and they can just grab and go. So they don't have to step into the freezer. They don't gotta step even to because also you want to keep your kitchen clean as well. Um, Food poisoning is a pain. Like, yeah, it can get bad pretty quickly. Um, so that's the basic strategy that I use. One technology that can also help with keeping it clean is getting sterile tiles. I don't know if this floor is sterile tiles or not. I believe they are. It's hard for me to see. Um, but if you can't get sterile tiles, something like steel um, helps. I forget the other. It's been a while not worked. It's not a sign. Architect, floors. So yeah, sterile tiles are just good. Steel tiles, I believe, aren't bad either. You definitely don't want to do carpet. Wood floors, if you absolutely have to. I believe the next best thing is sterile tiles, and then, yep, you see on the left-hand side, it says they get a quick to clean, and get a bonus to cleanliness and medical settings. So that's one technique that I use to keep the kitchen, keep the freezer clean. Another thing is you want to try and separate if you got to do like any slaughtering or butchering of an animal. Try to keep that outside. That's my strategy. So right here, Just butcher table. Try to keep that outside. So all the blood, guts, whatever, that'll be outside, not inside, not creating a mess. Alright, now overall for defense, I like making one single sort of like mega structure. There's advantages and disadvantages to that, but this is what I have done typically. Now for defense and actual combat, as you can see here, I have steel barricades, and I usually set things up in a line for most purposes. So if there's contact enemies coming from whatever direction, I can maneuver and position them so they're not in like each other's line of fire. There's like a little mini turret. They help. This is another bigger turret autocannon. Another defense that you could use is something like this. Walls, and then like a barricade or sandbags in between. So wall, barricade, and then on over. Now what you might see is the rain isn't hitting this area. I built a roof. So it's not an indoor area, but there is a roof, and there are armchairs and stuff. So if there's an engagement or fight that takes a long period of time, you know, my people aren't getting rained on by actual rain. They're protected from the sun a bit from it as well. They're kept comfortable, kept happy for a longer period of time, so they can actually stand guard for a longer period of time if need be. So that's another little tactic. Another little tactic I like to do is I like to have like a large outer wall, but it's not going to be completely closed up. So what I mean by that is a maze-like situation. So if enemies want to come into your, I guess, living area of the base, they're only going to like break through the walls if they don't have a clear pathway in. If they have a clear pathway in, they're not going to do that. Or they usually don't. It has happened, but it's definitely more of a rare thing. So in this instance, they'll have to come in, go all the way down, and then they're going to hit like barricades like right here. So that's going to slow them down a lot. Every barricade or sandbags that they have to climb over is going to slow them down. And we're not really going to be fighting here, so. And now I usually have like a door. They also won't go through the doors, only your people will go through. But if they don't have anywhere to actually stand and like strike at the door, because they can't stay on top of the barricades. So if they don't have anywhere to stand, they won't melee it. They're not going to melee the walls because they got a pathway in. So they can't stay here to bang and try to destroy the door. So got some protection there. But a quick door so your people can kind of come in and out if they need to, without having to like go through traps. And then as you see here, I got traps set up. Barricade. This is an IED. Sandbag, spike trap, sandbag, spike trap, sandbag, spike trap, so on and so forth. So they have to go through all of that, and that's going to really whittle down the enemy forces well before they become a threat. And then, at least for this specific entrance, because I got other entrances, just covering one at the moment, they get here. Then once they get here, they don't have any cover. And you know what's going to meet them when they get in that pathway? This slug turret. So this is a really powerful turret. I mean, you unlock it later in the game, but this slug turret, it hits hard. It's a uranium slug turret, so this is basically like an anti-tank round that's just going to be popping them as they're coming in one by one, and they're already hurt from the traps. And they get here, anyone's that's surviving, then it's just an open field of fire for my people that are going to be ready for them. That is another turret right here, just so that's like one of the entrances. It's another entrance. This is an entrance, but it's not a one for enemies. But another example is here. They have to get through the sandbags. You have to get through these traps and these sandbags, and then there's another slug turret right here. And once they get through, they're going to be standing like right here, and they're going to be in a line of fire for my people here. Now, another quick thing I want to touch on is electricity. Energy is pretty critical, but specifically, one of the management aspects of it is some of your batteries and wiring can get short in it, and when that happens, there's like an electrical explosion or whatever, and then you lose all of the power that was stored in batteries. And keep in mind, you got critical things like your freezer that needs to be powered, or your turrets, so on and so forth. So what I do to try and minimize the damage is I'll have like a specific designated room like this here. So when everything is fine with the energy, I have like a set of batteries. So right here I got 4 batteries. Their entire purpose is to get charged up, and then once they're charged, I completely disconnect it from the electrical grid, because when that electrical explosion happens, all your batteries are going to be drained if that electrical explosion happens. Anything that's connected to your electrical grid. So what you can do, you can have a single wire, or power conduit in this case, and then a power switch. So when they're charged up, all you gotta do, designate, toggle power, so they'll disconnect. Like if I hit that, it's going to disconnect these 4 from the grid. So they'll stay charged up, but then when there's an emergency or something happens, let's say an electrical explosion happens, where's my other batteries? Right here. This is like my usual set to power the base. You know, just there's not a switch there, like the other room is. So let's say there's an electrical explosion right here. All of these batteries get drained. I lose power. What I can do is I can send one of my people to toggle this switch here, and then these batteries will be online as a backup. So I keep some of these batteries isolated and basically compartmented to limit the damage. So that explosion happens, hit the switch, my power is back on. I got 4 batteries worth of power. So I got time to try and fix the situation if something needs to get repaired. That's just a quick little example. I try to have some other areas with batteries, so all the batteries aren't like just in one place. So for example, this is my barn at the moment. Got a couple batteries here. I believe there was another area that I had with some batteries, if I'm not mistaken. Or was that it? I know there's... Okay, maybe that's all the batteries I had for... Oh no, here we go. This is another storage area where I had some batteries. You see I got some batteries here. So keep some of those isolated. Specifically for those emergencies that I mentioned. Now, I'll talk a little bit about prisoner management. Okay, so with prisoner management, right now I have like 2 dedicated rooms for prisoners. this is pretty much like, as far as I know, based on the last time I played, the only real way to get new people is if you recruit them from like captured enemies, or there is like slave trading on here, so that you could technically buy a slave and then free them, have them become like part of your civilization. Also, the other way is sometimes you'll find like cryo sleep pods. So if like you happen to find a crashed ship or some other like cryo pods, like maybe stored in the mountain or something that people kind of long forgot about, sometimes you can find people in those cryo pods. You can open them up and then convince them to become part of your tribe, civilization, whatever. Um, the last I've seen, your people can't actually reproduce, so they can't like have babies or anything. So those are like the only ways you can really get new people. They may have changed that, I don't know. I know it's like one of the big requested features. I'm not aware if it's currently being a thing. But speaking of prisoners, usually I do 2 to a room. Usually, because there is like a breakout mechanic. If they get too unhappy, they get too... Basically, if they just get too unhappy, they can try to break out. So you don't want to have like one large barracks, because then something happens. You got a whole, you know, bunch of prisoners rushing to get out at once. So I keep it limited to 2 per room. And then I try to keep the room, get it a nice size, list of space. You can see that it's listed as pretty, or average size, wealth somewhat rich. I gave it a nice stone tribal pattern floor work. Keep it clean. Give them a table, a chair, a dresser, and a comfortable armchair. Flower. It helps with like the beauty of the room. You see the beauty listed at 3.94, which is considered pretty. Give them a light so they're not staying in darkness all the time. That's usually enough to keep them happy. Make it easier for you to recruit them, because the happier your prisoners are, the easier it is for you to recruit them. Alright, what else can I talk about here? Storage. If you have things that you want to keep stored, if you got, let's see, this is like leather that I have. This is cloth. If you got weapons, anything that you want to keep protected, because sometimes I think some enemies, they'll just try to steal things and run off. So you don't want to keep everything outdoors. Also, if you keep things outdoors, they'll deteriorate. So if you got resources, don't keep them outside. Keep them inside, and create a stockpile zone, and it helps. Try to have multiple sources of power. Getting back to the power for a second. So my sources of power at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, I got a wind turbine. I got a wind turbine. This right here is geothermal. You can only place these on like geothermal vents or like geysers. So that's more situational. These are costly to make, so you want to try and have them protected to some degree, at least protected from like stray gunfire and stuff like that, because you don't want that to go off. They're expensive and they produce a lot of power. So I got wind turbines. I believe I have solar panels somewhere, or did I get rid of them? Another wind turbine. No, I guess I got rid of all my solar panels. They used to be out there, but anyway, so I got rid of them. I guess I didn't need them. So I got 2 geothermals. I got wind turbines. Personally, I do prefer the wind turbines because they usually produce power, and then if you got an eclipse or something with like the solar panels, that does become a bit of an issue. I know some of it can get stored, but sometimes there's like weird events that happen. I find the wind turbines are more reliable. Now, also I recommend at some point getting multiple kitchens. When you get a lot of people, eventually you're gonna need like more chefs. So this kitchen right here, for example, that I showed you a bit earlier, there's 2 stoves. Uh, um, here's a chem fuel generator. So chem fuel, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I have an area where it could take some certain plant matter that from the farms and then convert it into fuel. I actually don't remember the full process at the moment, but one of these biofuel refinery. Okay, so I get from organics. What's considered organics? So raw food, vegetarian. Okay, so I can make chem fuel from wood and from organic material, and then I can turn these on. They produce power. That's another source of power that I'm currently using. Okay. Anything else that I can talk about for power exactly? Prisoners. Can't think of anything at the moment. Next thing, individual rooms. This is like the original base before I expanded it out. So I don't normally do hallway. People like dedicated for people to travel through, so they're not traveling through each other's rooms. See, anyone trying to get to a place, they don't have to go into Paxton's bedroom right here. They don't have to go into Donkey's bedroom, because I don't want any of these people to get like woken up unnecessarily, because that's like another negative modifier. They constantly get woken up during the night. They'll be unhappy about that. So they got their own rooms, unless there is a lover situation like I believe there's 2 here. So any traveling, they take the hallway. They can get to the dining room. I usually try to get a nice sized dining room. People seem to like that. You can get a comfortable armchairs if you can. This is a nice limestone table. This granite table. They like stuff like that. There's a TV, so anytime that they're sitting and they are going to eat, they're going to be inside the range of the TV, and that helps keep them happy. Gives them a nice positive modifier. There's a wooden poker table. I usually add like a couple things of like decoration. This is a column made of jade. They love it. You can see the information on it. Beauty is 22, so it's quite beautiful. Totemic. It's not good for cover. It is worth a bit. So if you find like a nice resource like jade or I usually like stone instead of like using gold or silver. I mean, you can use that too, but I find this is like probably one of the best uses of any kind of stone that you find. Put it in the corners. They get to see something pretty. It helps keep them more happy. This is some kind of game board, so they could use that, whatever. Crafting. I like to have a dedicated workshop. So right here we got an electric tailor bench. We have a fuel smithy, an electric smelter. I like to have shelves with any like important resources. Like right here is plasteel, which is like a futuristic, high quality steel, so to speak. Anything you might be using to create weapons. Here's some electrical components. So whatever they need they'll be nearby. They can quickly grab it, go to work, craft whatever needs to be crafted, and then I usually have like a dedicated area for weapons. So there's another room. Got some limestone blocks, bolt action rifle, machine pistol. So anything that gets crafted can go to this area. Usually keeping things on the shelves is a little bit better than keeping them on the floor. I believe you can store a bit more stuff. There's some more advantages of just not moving at the moment. Let's go to animals. Getting a barn is great. It takes a little bit to work up to that because number one, you have to keep your people reliably fed before you start having animals. And then keeping animals happy is another issue as well. So, alright, what can I kind of cover here? So one thing my tribe is doing is they've trained cougars. They've trained and are breeding cougars. So you can see a lot of them here. I don't recommend doing this from the start because big cats need a lot of meat. So that's like one thing to keep in mind. So you'll see some younger cougars here, baby cougars, some very young one, 8 days old. I got some horses, got some cows. I try to keep like a set population, and I keep them fed mostly with rice, hay grass. I have all of it blocked off with a nice fence, so they can go in. They can go in indoors if they want to. Kept warm. I believe this is straw matting, so it really keeps it. The straw matting helps from avoiding building up too much animal filth. So they got a lot of the herbivores at least got a lot of food outside. They can roam, graze, get all that hay, rice. I believe that's the only real plant out there. This is special. I won't get into that just yet. Hay grass. So all of that helps. This is a good set amount. I have the barn zone. If I can, wooden pen marker. Here we go. So you can see whatever nutrition is stockpiled, what nutrition is being consumed, the nutrition grow rate, which actually doesn't look good. I don't know if that got reset some way. Growth rate 4.8 and we're consuming 13. That might be an issue. It wasn't an issue when I last played, but I'm not sure what's going on there. I have to take a close look at that. But I have it set so auto cut. So some of the animals are getting like slaughtered. So some of the cows, once they get old enough, are getting slaughtered. I believe cows is like our only source of meat currently. Extreme situations, I have slaughtered a horse. And then once we get too many cougars, for example, I can sell them. They're worth quite a bit. But the cougars are trained, so we use them for fighting. They can get like their own individual masters, so if there's an attack coming on, I don't know if Carney has a cougar or not, but I can set him. So the cougars, they're trained, they'll go to their master's side, and they can send off the cougars to hunt people down. What else can we cover here? Again, the whole cougar situation is a special thing. I wouldn't recommend it. Not at just like if you're just beginning the game. There's definitely other bigger priorities, but it's one thing that, you know, it's one technique kind of thing you could do. Let's cover something else here. These are just all rooms that we kind of cover. This is a shrine, because that'd be like a religion in here and culture. I ain't gonna get too much into that because I don't remember the specifics. One advantage was you can have them participate in rituals. If you capture some people, you can kind of convert them to your culture, and it makes it easier to bring them to like your tribe or your civilization, for that matter. Uh, so another defense thing. Sometimes you'll get enemies that'll just try to build up like they'll try to build like on your map. So they might, for example, build something like way out here in like a mortar. They'll defend their position, and then they'll just like try to like rain bombs on you. Enemies will try different tactics. You'll get some enemies that'll like try to dig through walls and stuff, or just break through them. So what I like to do to counter when they try to set up mortars is to get my own mortars going. I got 2 mortars here. One's a steel, one is uranium. Usually focus on incendiary shells, if I remember correctly. But they got a great range. What you see here is actually the minimum range. They can't shoot any closer than that. But okay, it's fine, not a big deal. But it takes them time to try and build up their like the enemies that come in there like trying to build defenses and then like build mortars. When they do that, while they're building, they're going to be getting mortars rained on them. So I don't have to worry too much. They'll get mortars rained on them. But I do also have like a dedicated people to send out. They got like jetpacks, they can like go and hunt them down. But when you can, it's a good idea to get a mortar or 2 set up so you can rain down mortars on people that's trying to set up defenses on your map. Because they may not always try to come and like rush to attack you directly. They might be trying to set up mortars. Also, there's other situations where it's like a mechanoid race that might crash down. Mechanoid races, they're like AI control machine things, and when they crash land, they start like repairing, and then they have like their own stuff, their own defenses and stuff. And sometimes it takes some of the things to wake up before they're like a threat, so you got time to react to it. So same concept. They crash land, I'm hitting them with mortars. I'm not waiting for them to wake up. And if I can weaken them before I send my actual people in, then that's what I'm going to do. I know I talked to you a little bit about some of you a little bit about making sure on the outside perimeter of your base that you don't have trees, so they can't use it. A lot of trees. I know I have a dedicated grill zone now because I got defenses, but a good example of that was right here. I got rid of all the trees. There is some that quickly regrew, but it's not a big issue. Generally, there's no cover for them to use. Another thing I like to do, I like to set up spike traps. I don't quite remember why I have a bunch of spike traps right here. That might have been beforehand. Another thing I like to do, I like to have IEDs along the outside perimeter. So all these circles here are showing IEDs. Here's some more. I just have them scattered throughout the outside. There may be more, I don't quite remember exactly everywhere I've placed them, but those things will go off. They come in handy, especially in a pinch. Now, I guess we can talk about some of the downsides. The downsides about having one sort of mega structure instead of like smaller homes. Um, Once they do get inside the base, which has happened, or if you get any enemies inside the base, you're going to be in an indoor fight with them. And a good example is some of the main entrances. So if we focus on here, for example, if they get in through here, it's going to be an indoor fight, and there's not a lot of like natural defenses and stuff to use for cover. I did place like these limestone barricades here, but in case people need to stand here and fight directly at the door. Um, so you will be at a bit of a disadvantage. Usually, I mean, I've been able to manage, and hasn't been a big issue. Uh, Usually, if they get inside, they're gonna have like cougars to worry about. I do have some melee people who are good at melee fighting with armor. A lot of people here have armor. You can see some of the gear, plasteel plate armor, good protection. This one here, Minenyo assault rifle. Okay. Another good thing to get is get a comms console. Get a comms console and a orbital trade beacon. Once you do that, anything that you kind of collected, because there's usually like trade ships and stuff that stop by, being able to trade some things. As I mentioned before, sometimes I trade some of these cougars. They're worth a bit. Trade some of the cougars. If I'm getting too many to like be able to keep feeding, trade them, sell them, or whatever, or trade them for beef or whatever I need at the time. Helpful. Trying to give people a nice size room here. Where it says space 43, average size. It helps with keeping them happy. And I mean, I think that's pretty much about it. I got different farms set up for different foods. That's kind of self-explanatory though. I did have, I don't quite remember why I removed it, but in this room, I remember, because this was set up to be a throne room for the culture. Limestone meditation throne, yeah, that's why I removed it. But I originally had a indoor, like, hydroponics. Which was helpful for growing through, like, the winter. There's a lot of foods. Like, if you don't collect everything, once everything freezes, then they can get destroyed. It's been a while since I played, so I don't know why. Like, I have it completely removed. I'll figure that out later. Alright. Just another little setup that I've done for defenses. Take a quick look. Limestone wall, stone barricade, cloth armchair, auto turret cannon system. Got some little mushroom farm. That is pretty much it up here. I have pod launchers, so if I need to send stuff anywhere in the world quickly, I can do so. So I can show you here. Alright, so I'm not going to actually form a caravan or any of that right now, but those pods have like a certain range. and you can just, if you know you're trying to send something to somewhere, you can just launch those pods. Those pods are only one way. Like little rocket pods, you can send whatever to. You can send people to wherever you need to send them like really quick. They'll have to find their own way back if that's the plan, but there's also some strategies for like filling the pods with like explosives, uh, flammable material and stuff. But then like here's one of my enemies, the Generados, hostile, -100 attitude. Uh, so you can launch those pods with explosives and gasoline, and just let it wreak a bit of havoc. It's a good way for just like making attacks. I have not yet like left the planet. At some point, that might be a thing, but currently no. I don't know if I had another settlement. Settlements. I have another settlement, or is it just this one? I'm guessing it's just this one. I've definitely set up some temporary camps to like mine some resources and stuff, but I think that's good. Good bit of stuff to cover for now. But yeah. If anyone has any questions, feel free to send them my way. I'll try to answer what I can. That's it for now.